Hey YouTubers, welcome back. We're going to be continuing on our staining project today. So let's get right into our demonstration of actually staining our piece of furniture. We'll just do a quick little before shot, even though the furniture is upside down. And we're going to just show you how we proceed with the staining process. The customer's decided that he wants us to condition the wood, but we're going to do it with water instead of the pre-conditioner. And we're just going to do the base here to demonstrate. Take our bucket of water, and we're not going to stain the bottom. We only did this as a sample. So what we're going to do is soak the feet. And the beauty about using water, as I mentioned in the previous video about conditioning, is that it doesn't seal the pores of the wood like the store-bought pre-conditioner does. And so we can get it wet, we can let it dry off. We can leave it and things can dry up, and it's not sealed. We can just come back and start again, re-wet it if we have to. So what we want to do is just soak the surfaces. When I say soak, I mean just make sure they're quite wet, but we don't have to have puddles of water all over the place. That's why it's good to use a brush and have some kind of control. So we're just going to start off by doing the feet, and we're going to stain up to this point because you'll never see underneath here. If it was an outside piece of furniture, if it was an exterior piece of furniture, we should seal everything off, and then that would stop the moisture from drying up underneath it. But because it's an interior piece, we're just going to stain whatever we see. So we just work our way around like that. And we get down on here. We're just going to do a little area at a time, and then stain it, and then move on. So I'll just do this bottom rail area for demonstration purposes, and I'll show you what the whole thing looks like once it's done. We want to take our stain and position it in the middle of the piece. Now, if you don't like the idea of working out of the can, we could transfer the stain. Once it's all been stirred, we could transfer it into a bigger cutting pail. We can apply it with a brush, but I prefer in a project like this where the surfaces, like there's different edges, different profiles, I prefer to rag on and rag off. So again, with the stain, you have a certain window of opportunity. You want to apply it and we want to get the stain on there, and we want to let it soak in a little. Give it a little bit of time. But we basically just stain wherever we put our conditioner. You don't want to try to work under control. You don't want to be making a big mess. With the stain, they want you to let it to soak in for at least 15 minutes. So that's plenty of time for us to get around this small area here. We condition. keep it fairly wet on the rag. Just keep things going. And there you have it. Take a clean rag and then just start to go around. These areas that you've stained were within our 15-minute window. Stain. You might see that from rail to rail it might look lighter, it might look darker, but don't be alarmed, that's just the natural effect of the wood. We're dealing with a natural product, so you'd expect some variances, some variability, or variegation, whichever word you like to use. The bottom rail done, we can turn it over onto each side now, do each side. We'll do the top and then I'll come back and show you what it looks like at the end. Before we go ahead and complete this piece, I just want to clarify something. And that is when we put our conditioner on, especially when we're using the water, as in this case, get it on there. You can see that it beads up a little bit. But we can brush that on. What I found is that it can actually puddle. It doesn't look like it, but the water can actually sit on the surface somewhat, and that can really dilute the stain. So what I'm suggesting here, what I wanted to just highlight here before we get too much further, is to apply the water, let it soak in, and what it's doing is it's opening up the pores of the grain in the wood to accept the stain. And then once we've got that on with a brush, once we've applied that on there, work it in a little bit. Okay, then we actually want to take a rag and get the excess of that water off. Now you wouldn't do this if you use the store-bought conditioner. You let it soak in for a while. You let it evaporate off a little bit. When you're using the water, I just want you to do this, and then even though it may dilute the stain somewhat, it won't be all swishing around on the surface. So just something to keep in mind. And so there we have the finished product. A coffee table / storage area built with pine and stained with special walnut stain from Minwax. I hope you enjoyed that demonstration. If you have any comments or questions, feel free to leave them on my channel. I'll respond as soon as I can. And if you have any ideas or suggestions for a demonstration that you'd like to see, leave that too and I'll endeavor to get to it. Also, you could like the videos and by all means subscribe. So until next time, it's been Craig the Muskoka Painter, helping you take the pain out of painting.